Welcome to the Classic Soap Operas podcast. Today we're uncorking a true vintage, a show that absolutely defined an era of television, Falcon Crest. This was more than just a TV show, you know. It was a sprawling saga of power, passion, and betrayal, all set against the incredibly lush, dramatic backdrop of the California wine industry. For those of you who might be entirely new to this opulent world, or even if you're a longtime fan looking for some fresh insights, this deep dive is crafted just for you. We're going to trace its fascinating history, delve into the juicy behind-the-scenes stories, and even explore the real-life vineyard that served as its stunning home. And that place, ironically, has had its own share of dramatic twists and turns in recent years, almost mirroring the on-screen action. Our mission today is to truly uncork the rich history and enduring legacy of Falcon Crest. We want to explore what made it so utterly unique and how it perfectly reflected the ambitious, opulent spirit of the 1980s. And just a note for those of you watching, we'll be playing muted and captioned videos of public domain artwork from the So Long Ago YouTube channel in the background throughout our discussion.
It's truly fascinating to look back at Falcon Crest because it wasn't just another show. It was a phenomenon, really, a staple of Friday night television for nearly a decade. When we talk about American primetime television soap operas, Falcon Crest stands tall as a cornerstone. It aired for a remarkable 9 seasons on CBS, running from December 4th, 1981, all the way to May 17th, 1990. That gave us 227 episodes of pure, unadulterated drama. It demanded commitment from its viewers, and they consistently showed up.
9 seasons, 227 episodes. That's an incredible level of viewer commitment. What, in your view, made Falcon Crest's narrative so compelling? Why did they captivate audiences for almost a decade? Was it the glamour, the characters, or maybe something else entirely?
That's a fantastic question. And, while the glamour and a really compelling cast were definitely part of its draw, a significant factor was its initial positioning and how it evolved. I know when people think of Falcon Crest, they often hear that old chestnut, oh, it's just Dallas with grapes. And while that comparison is sort of accurate in terms of its initial market positioning, Falcon Crest truly carved out its own distinct identity within the primetime soap landscape.
Okay, so it wasn't just Dallas with grapes.
Not entirely, no. Although CBS absolutely pushed for it to be more like Dallas in its early days. See, Dallas was the network's biggest hit at the time, a juggernaut. And they even strategically scheduled Falcon Crest to air directly after it on Friday nights. It created this powerhouse double bill,
Smart move.
Oh, very smart. It was a lucrative move for CBS, and for a few years, Falcon Crest actually rode that wave. It became a top 20 show in the Nielsen ratings because of that lead-in.
So it started in Dallas's shadow, but what truly set it apart then? Because, Dynasty was also on the air, another huge hit. How did Falcon Crest manage to stake its own claim and distinguish its personality from its, equally lavish counterparts?
That's a very insightful distinction to make. Falcon Crest occupied this really specific middle ground. You could say it was more glamorous, certainly, than the often dustier, oil-centric grit of Dallas. The wine country setting automatically lent itself to that. But crucially, it was also less outrageous, perhaps more grounded, maybe even subtly psychological than the over-the-top, shoulder-pad-laden antics and, let's face it, overt villainy of Dynasty.
Right. Dynasty really leaned into the camp sometimes.
Exactly. Dynasty embraced caricature, but Falcon Crest cultivated a particular personality. He was characterized by that distinctive location, filming in the Napa Valley, which we'll talk more about, and a dry, almost wryly humorous tone in its scripts. Unlike Dynasty's more cartoonish villains, Falcon Crest's antagonists, especially Angela, often operated with this clever wit and a more understated malice. It made their manipulations feel, maybe more chilling and realistic sometimes.
That commitment to truly embracing its setting, modeling the fictional Tuscany Valley directly on the real Napa, that felt like more than just a visual flourish. It sort of anchored the fantastical elements of the show in a tangible, aspirational reality. The strategic use of a recognizable, beloved American landscape added a layer of resonance, didn't it? It subtly suggested the drama wasn't just about fictional feuds, but maybe about the very real, often ruthless pursuit of an American dream tied to land, legacy, and luxury. Can you tell us more about how the show brought the Napa Valley to life?
Absolutely. The show truly embraced its setting as a character in itself. That's spot on. Falcon Crest was explicitly set in the fictitious Tuscany Valley, located, as the show said, northeast of San Francisco. But this Tuscany Valley was a direct, unmistakable model of the real Napa Valley. The rolling hills, the picturesque vineyards, it was all there. The sense of place was integral to the show's identity.
And the main house, the mansion.
Right. For its iconic backdrop, the show used Spring Mountain Vineyard in St. Helena, California, right in the heart of Napa. The exterior of their 1884 Victorian mansion, Villa Miravalle, became the famous Falcon Crest mansion, where Angela Channing held court with her iron fist. Plus, the winery building itself, which was actually constructed in the mid-1970s, was also a key part of the filming.
And didn't they actually make a wine?
They did. What's even more fascinating is that Spring Mountain Winery actually produced the Falcon Crest wine during the show's original run. It blurred the lines between fiction and reality in this brilliant marketing move. Imagine buying a bottle from the very place the drama unfolded.
That is such a neat detail, really adds to the show's immersion. And at the heart of all that, grapes, greed, and grandeur was, of course, the family itself, the wealthy, feuding Gioberti and Channing factions. Their battles revolved entirely around the California wine industry, making wine literally the lifeblood and source of all conflict. How did this family dynamic and the vineyard itself fuel such constant drama?
That's where the genius of its core conflict truly lay. At the very core of this dynastic struggle was Angela Channing, brought to life so masterfully by the legendary Jane Wyman. She was the quintessential, overbearing, tyrannical matriarch who rules the Falcon Crest vineyards with an iron fist. That description is perfect. Her character wasn't just central to the plot, she dictated the entire tone of the series, a force of nature driven by this insatiable desire for control and legacy. Her every move, every cutting remark was aimed at securing her family's dominance over the prime wine-producing land.
Can you give an example?
Oh, sure. Early on, you'd see Angela maybe manipulating a wine shipment to ruin her nephew Chase's harvest or leveraging distribution deals to cut him out of the market. The conflict was tangible through the very product they both sought to control, the wine.
She really was formidable. You loved to hate her, but you also couldn't help but be impressed by her sheer will. When the series opens, the primary conflict is ignited by the arrival of Angela's nephew, Chase Gioberti, played by Robert Foxworth. He shows up to claim his inherited portion of Falcon Crest after his brother, Jason Gioberti, tragically, unalived himself in the winery. Or, as one source also states, died from a fall there. A bit ambiguous, maybe. Angela, of course, views Chase as nothing but an interloper, a threat to her absolute control. How did this initial rivalry set the stage for the escalating battles that would define the show?
That initial conflict between Angela and Chase was fundamental. It established the power struggle. Old money versus new ambition, traditional control versus a claim to rightful inheritance. It was a classic setup that resonated deeply with audiences. And the dynamics only grew more complex in the second season with the introduction of Richard Channing, portrayed so well by David Selby. Richard quickly established himself as Angela's true rival, a character whose complexity added incredible layers to the narrative.
His backstory was something else, wasn't it?
Oh, incredibly intricate. He was revealed to be the illegitimate son of Angela's ex-husband, Douglas Channing, and Chase's mother, Jacqueline Perot. Talk about complicated family trees. After his father's death, Richard inherits substantial shares in the family newspaper, the San Francisco Globe. And he uses this newfound wealth and power not just for business, but to seek retribution. He feels he was always treated as an outcast, the illegitimate black sheep, so he constantly crosses both Angela and Chase, relentlessly attempting to gain control of Falcon Crest himself. This added this layer of psychological warfare and deep-seated grudges to the already simmering family tensions. It transformed the conflict from merely corporate to profoundly personal.
So you have Angela, the established queen, Chase, the returning rightful heir, sort of, and Richard, the cunning outsider with the burning vendetta. Wow, talk about a dramatic trifecta. But the show had a wider cast of characters whose lives were perpetually entangled in these power struggles. We had Angela's daughters, Julia and Emma, played by Abby Dalton and Margaret Ladd. How did their struggles and secrets contribute to the central drama?
Julia and Emma were fascinating, precisely because they were Angela's daughters. They were constantly trying to navigate her overwhelming presence while forging their own identities, often failing. Julia, for example, often found herself trapped between her mother's manipulations and her own desires. This led to some really tragic choices, like becoming involved in a murder plot in an attempt to protect the family, or what she thought was protecting the family. Emma, on the other hand, was presented as the more fragile and sensitive sister, often a pawn in Angela's schemes, struggling with her own mental health and just longing for independence and love, which Angela often used against her. Their personal dramas and vulnerabilities provided a powerful counterpoint to Angela's ruthless ambition.
And then there was Lance, Lorenzo Lamas.
Ah, yes, Lance. Angela's handsome, often morally ambiguous grandson, played by Lorenzo Lamas. He was constantly scheming, always looking for the easiest path to power or pleasure, often with disastrous consequences. Lance really embodied the corrupting influence of wealth and power in that world, always seeking shortcuts, but often finding himself outmaneuvered by his grandmother or falling victim to his own impulsive nature.
And of course, the younger generation's romantic entanglements were just as vital to the plot as the power struggles for the vineyard. Susan Sullivan played Maggie, Chase's wife, who often found herself navigating the treacherous waters of the Channing family. Kind of a moral compass in a world of treachery. Their son, Cole, played by William R. Moses, and the fiery heiress Melissa Agretti, portrayed by Anna Alicia. They formed a central love triangle, didn't they? How did their personal lives become so inextricably linked to the larger family battles for control of Falcon Crest?
The Lance Kerr-Melissa dynamic was really a masterclass in intertwining personal and corporate drama. You had Lance, Angela's favorite grandson, manipulative but charming. Then Cole, Chase's son, representing a more honest, principled approach, at least initially. And Melissa Agretti, as the heiress to a neighboring vineyard, represented both a potential alliance or a new rival for control of the valley. Her land was key. Their romantic rivalries weren't just about love. They were about securing alliances, consolidating land, and ultimately securing the future of Falcon Crest.
So Melissa was caught in the middle.
Often, yes. She was often caught between Lance and Cole, her affections and her family's land being key prizes in the ongoing Channing-Gioberti feud. This blend of generational conflict, romantic drama, and corporate intrigue kept viewers absolutely riveted, because every personal decision had massive business implications, and vice versa. It truly highlighted the idea that in this world, love and power were really two sides of the same coin.
That deep intertwining of family and business is what made it so compelling, I think. And it really makes you wonder about the creative vision driving it all, doesn't it? We already mentioned Earl Hamner Jr., the creator, famously known for the Waltons, which is quite a shift. But it's worth highlighting just how much the show transformed from his original concept. He initially called it The Vintage Years, right? Intending it to be a pure family drama centered around the wine industry.
That's correct. And when he offered Jane Wyman the lead role of Angela Channing, there's a great little story. She actually thought Barbara Stanwyck had turned it down first, but Hamner assured her that was just an untrue rumor. The role had apparently never been offered to Stanwyck.
Interesting. And this casting of Jane Wyman is critical, isn't it? It speaks volumes about Hamner's intent for Angela.
It really does. He explicitly said he wanted a sympathetic actress for the role of Angela, precisely to prevent her from becoming just a one-note villain. He believed that Wyman, who he called a legendary star and great actress, would bring a crucial dimension to the character. As he put it, and this is a great quote, "The character is a harsh one. Miss Wyman's nice lady image gives Angie more dimension and sympathy." This creative choice allowed Angela to be tyrannical without becoming a cartoonish antagonist, which was vital for sustained audience engagement over 9 seasons.
It also underscores that her casting was purely based on her acting prowess, not her very public past as Ronald Reagan's ex-wife, which some might have assumed during his presidency in the 80s.
Exactly. Hamner seemed clear it was about her talent giving Angela depth. It added an unnecessary layer of speculation, but the focus was on the character.
It's a smart move, giving depth to a character who could easily have been a caricature. And speaking of interesting casting trivia, it's fascinating to consider what could have been. Robert Foxworth, who played Chase Gioberti, he actually turned down the role of J.R. Ewing on Dallas. Is that right?
That's the story. He reportedly didn't want to play such an unsympathetic character, which of course paved the way for Larry Hagman to make J.R. an absolute icon. Can you imagine Dallas with a different J.R.?
Yeah.
It's one of those tantalizing what-if moments in television history that really reshaped an entire genre.
It truly is a pivotal moment, and it highlights how much Falcon Crest became known for its star power, not just the main cast. The show consciously embraced this unique casting strategy, frequently bringing in former Hollywood royalty in guest roles.
Yes, this wasn't accidental at all. The producers instituted a rotating guest star policy. They deliberately brought in seasoned talents that added immense gravitas and star power to the ensemble. It was a deliberate choice to differentiate themselves, maybe add a touch of old Hollywood class. We're talking huge names like Lana Turner, Dana Andrews, Celeste Holm, Gina Lollobrigida, Kim Novak, Cliff Robertson, Cesar Romero, Robert Stack. The list goes on.
And later, too, right?
Yes, later, in the 1987-1988 season, we saw Eddie Albert, Ursula Andress, Eve Arden, Roscoe Lee Brown, Leslie Caron, and Lauren Hutton. Rod Taylor even remained with the series until its very end. This move not only boosted ratings, but also gave the show this distinct air of classic Hollywood glamour that really distinguished it from its competitors. It felt like a nod back to a golden age of cinema.
That's a clever way to keep the show feeling fresh and star-studded. But of course, with Hollywood royalty comes Hollywood drama, sometimes off-screen too. There's a particularly juicy story involving Sophia Loren and Gina Lollobrigida and a character named Francesca Gioberti. In 1984, Sophia Loren was apparently set to play Angela's secret half-sister, Francesca, for 13 episodes. Producers were promising her a fabulous wardrobe and a character dynamic enough to rival Dynasty's Alexis Carrington. What happened there?
The Lauren Lollobrigida saga. It's a classic tale of Hollywood intrigue, isn't it? Yes, Sophia Loren was right on the cusp of joining the cast, poised to bring a new level of glamour and conflict as Angela's secret half-sister. Big deal. However, at the very last minute, negotiations with Loren fell through. Reportedly, over salary demands, she wanted too much money.
I know.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Gina Lollobrigida, who was famously a longtime rival of Sophia Loren's, was then swiftly cast in the role instead. Though she only signed on for 5 episodes, Lollobrigida's appearance earned her a Golden Globe nomination, adding another layer to their storied, real-life rivalry. It's also worth noting, Loren had previously been Aaron Spelling's first choice for the iconic role of Alexis Carrington on Dynasty before Joan Collins ultimately took the part. Again, apparently due to Loren demanding too much money.
Wow. So the drama wasn't just on screen. It was very much a part of the casting process, reflecting the competitive nature of Hollywood itself.
Absolutely. These things happen.
It certainly sounds like the drama wasn't just confined to the screen. Speaking of those on-set rivalries or rumored rivalries, I've always been intrigued by the whispers of a long-running feud between Jane Wyman and Lana Turner during their time on the show together. Was there any truth to those stories, or was it just Hollywood gossip amplified for ratings?
That's a great question, and it's a rumor that became almost as famous as the show itself. The story circulated widely that these two legendary actresses supposedly refused to speak to each other. It got so bad, the story goes, that producers had to film their confrontational scenes separately and then painstakingly edit them together to create the illusion of shared screen time.
Which would be quite something technologically back then.
Oh, absolutely. A testament to Hollywood magic if true, isn't it? However, Lana Turner publicly addressed these rumors. She appeared on The Phil Donahue Show back in 1982 and emphatically denied them. And if I may, her direct quote was quite strong. She said, "It's a bunch of bull. It's all publicity trying to drum up a feud between us. I adore Ms. Wyman. I respect her as a lady and an artist, and there is no feud." That's pretty unequivocal, wouldn't you say?
Wow, that is a powerful denial. A bunch of bull. You don't get much clearer than that. Yet the rumor persisted. Did Turner ever offer any further explanation or speculation about why these stories might have started or why they kept going?
She did, actually. And this is where it gets a bit more nuanced, perhaps more speculative on her part. A few years after her appearance on the show, Turner offered her own thoughts. She suggested that maybe Wyman's alleged negativity stemmed from her ex-husband, Ronald Reagan, being elected president during the 1980s. Turner believed, or speculated, that Wyman couldn't quite reconcile that within herself.
So the pressures of the presidency affecting the atmosphere on set.
That was Turner's implication, yes. That the pressures and public scrutiny surrounding Reagan's presidency might have contributed to a strained atmosphere on set, which could then have been misconstrued or exaggerated into a personal feud. It really highlights how personal and political narratives can intertwine, even in the realm of entertainment, and how public perception can sometimes overshadow reality, or at least create its own reality.
Regardless of the truth of the feud, it certainly added to the mystique of the show. And much of that mystique came from the stunning visual backdrop we mentioned earlier. While interior scenes were filmed in Los Angeles, the cast and crew would actually spend 6 weeks each summer filming exterior scenes at the real Spring Mountain Vineyard in St. Helena. What were the advantages and challenges of that commitment to on-location shooting? That sounds expensive and difficult.
It definitely had its challenges, but that commitment to on-location shooting was a strategic choice that paid immense dividends. It truly gave the show an authentic, grounded feel that set it apart. The advantage was the unparalleled beauty and scale of the Napa Valley. You just couldn't replicate that sweeping grandeur or the specific light of wine country on a soundstage. Not back then, anyway. It made the fictitious Tuscany Valley feel incredibly real, almost a character itself, grounding the melodrama in a tangible sense of place and aspiration.
And the challenge?
Well, the challenges, of course, involve logistics, moving an entire production crew and cast to a working vineyard for 6 weeks each summer. coordinating around grape harvests, respecting the privacy of the actual vineyard owners. That's complicated. But that blend of authentic location and studio work created this rich visual tapestry that really defined Falcon Crest's aesthetic.
That dedication to realism truly elevated the show. And here's a fun, intriguing bit of trivia. Both the Chateau Chevalier Winery and Miraval's Victorian-style mansion at Spring Mountain Vineyard are rumored to be haunted. That just adds another layer of Gothic mystery to the already dramatic setting, doesn't it? Almost as if the spirits of past dramas lingered within those historic walls, maybe the echoes of Angela Channing's machinations.
It absolutely does. Imagine the untold stories those walls hold, both fictional and possibly supernaturally real. Who knows? It adds to the mystique, creating this fascinating intersection of the on-screen drama and the real-world history and lore of the location itself.
As we trace the path of Falcon Crest to its iconic status, it's worth a quick detour back to its very beginning, to a version of the show that almost was the original pilot, titled The Vintage Years. Written by Hamner and directed by Alexander Singer, this version was never actually broadcast right, though it did become available online years later via AOL's Into TV service in 2007. What did that original pilot reveal about Hamner's initial vision before CBS pushed for the Dallas influence?
It reveals a much softer, more traditional family drama. Quite different. The Vintage Years pilot was a gentler exploration of generational conflict and the challenges of running a family business. It had less overt villainy, less backstabbing maybe. There was more emphasis on the intricacies of winemaking and the complexities of family relationships. When CBS insisted on reshoots and rewrites to make it more like Dallas, that's when they injected the overt melodrama, the intense power struggles, and the ruthless characters like Angela that ultimately defined Falcon Crest. Seeing the original pilot offers a unique glimpse into the creative compromises that often shape television history. It shows how network demands can fundamentally alter a creator's initial vision sometimes, arguably for the better in terms of commercial success, but maybe losing something else along the way.
That's a fascinating insight into the evolution of a hit show. So if we look at the show's narrative arc, the core rivalry between Angela, Chase, and later Richard truly remained the backbone for many years. It was the constant simmering tension that fueled the show's engine. Around this central conflict, romantic entanglements spun wildly. How did the show ensure these storylines didn't become repetitive? How did they maintain high stakes for nearly a decade?
Well, they managed to keep it fresh by constantly shifting alliances, introducing compelling new characters, and importantly, throwing increasingly elaborate obstacles at the core family. While the central theme of control over Falcon Crest remained, the methods and the stakes just kept escalating. For instance, Lance and Cole, as we mentioned, often found themselves not only caught up in their family's battles for control of Falcon Crest, but also fiercely competing for the affections of Melissa Agretti, the fiery heiress. Their personal rivalries often had direct consequences for the vineyards, like a sabotaged harvest or a land deal going awry because of a romantic spat. This created this really complex web of loyalty, betrayal, and unrequited love, where personal triumphs or heartbreaks could literally mean the gain or loss of a fortune.
And what would a classic primetime soap opera be without its iconic cliffhangers? Falcon Crest absolutely delivered on this front, didn't it? Leaving viewers on the edge of their seats season after season. What was it like for the cast and crew filming those massive, high-stakes cliffhangers? Remember the third season finale in 1984? A plane crash, involving most of the major characters, which ultimately resulted in 3 deaths. That was shocking, a true game-changer for the show.
Oh, filming those cliffhangers was undoubtedly a massive undertaking. It required intricate stunt work, special effects, which were a big deal back then, and huge amount of coordination. You can imagine there would have been a palpable buzz on set, but also immense pressure to deliver a truly memorable show-stopping moment that would bring viewers back next fall. And they didn't stop there with the plane crash. The 4th season ended with a terrifying bomb explosion, leaving both Richard and Maggie in grave peril, a moment of visceral terror that left their fates completely ambiguous.
And the earthquake.
Right. Then a 5th season concluded with a massive earthquake ripping through the valley, threatening everyone and everything they held dear. It showcased the vulnerability of their opulent world to forces beyond their control, beyond even Angela's control.
Just when you thought they couldn't top themselves, the 6th season cliffhanger in 1987 saw Chase, Melissa, Richard, a newcomer named Dan Fix, and Maggie's baby all in danger of drowning in the San Francisco Bay Area after a car plunge. The sheer scale and stakes of these events were incredible, designed to make sure you had to tune in next season. The show excelled at raising the dramatic ante, almost daring viewers not to come back.
And these escalating perils were often accompanied by significant shifts in the cast, which was another way the show kept evolving and trying to stay fresh. Over the years, core characters departed, leading to new dynamics and power plays, sometimes controversial departures. For example, at the end of the 7th season, Melissa Agretti, in a truly shocking development, actually managed to wrest complete control of Falcon Crest away from Angela.
That was huge. Angela losing control.
Monumental. Angela's iron grip on the vineyards had been a central theme since day one. It marked a rare defeat for the seemingly invincible matriarch. Shortly after that, Richard was apparently murdered. You always have to say apparently. In soaps, by this shadowy, powerful group of businessmen known as the 13, whom he had double-crossed. This raised the dramatic stakes to a truly conspiratorial level, introducing an external threat beyond just the usual family feuds.
Talk about high stakes. But by the late 1980s, the landscape of television was shifting. The golden age of primetime soaps began to wane. Ratings for Falcon Crest, much like its contemporaries Dallas and Dynasty, started to drop. Tastes were changing, weren't they? Audiences gravitating more towards sitcoms like The Cosby Show, or realistic legal or crime dramas like LA Law and In the Heat of the Night. It was a tough time for grand melodramas. In fact, Soap Opera Digest even famously called Falcon Crest the most ruined show during its 8th season, which finished a distant 52nd in the annual ratings. Ouch. What do you think contributed to that decline? Was it simply a shift in audience taste, or did the show itself lose some of its spark?
I think it was a confluence of factors, really. A classic case of cultural tastes shifting, absolutely. And while the show certainly attempted to revitalize itself, much like Knots Landing had successfully done by becoming maybe grittier and more grounded, Falcon Crest couldn't quite recapture its former glory in the same way. The departure of key characters, particularly Robert Foxworth as Chase, definitely played a role, and perhaps a struggle to maintain the freshness of its core conflicts after so many years. By the start of the 9th and final season in 1989, only Angela, Lance, and Emma remained from the original core cast. That's a big change.
And Jane Wyman herself wasn't there for a lot of it, was she?
Exactly. And most significantly, Jane Wyman, who was so essential to the show's identity, was absent for most of that final season due to health concerns. The storylines explained her absence by having Angela attacked and falling into a coma for several months. That created a huge void for viewers who tuned in largely for her.
Her absence must have been deeply felt. The final season largely revolved around a new battle for control of Falcon Crest, this time between Richard and a newcomer, Michael Sharp, trying to fill that power vacuum. Ultimately, CBS executives made the difficult decision to end Falcon Crest when the ratings for that 9th season plummeted even further, finishing way down in 63rd place. But thankfully, Jane Wyman did return for the last 3 episodes, bringing much-needed closure. How did the show manage to conclude such a long, turbulent saga?
It ended on a surprisingly poignant and, relatively happy note, considering all the turmoil over the years. The show culminated with a family wedding taking place in the mansion grounds, a symbol of hope and continuity for the embattled family. And in a truly poignant moment, Angela took a walk outside for her final scene. The soliloquy she delivered, which was actually written by Jane Wyman herself, brought the series to this beautiful, reflective conclusion. She acknowledged past characters and events, the good and the bad, but then looked forward to the future, and she raised her glass in that final iconic toast. A toast to you, Falcon Crest, and long may you live. It was a fitting, emotional farewell to a show that had been a fixture for so many years, signifying that even through all the betrayals and battles, the legacy of Falcon Crest, the place and the idea, endured.
That's a powerful ending, giving the show and its fans a sense of peace after so much turmoil. Looking back at its overall impact and legacy, Falcon Crest had quite the journey through the ratings, didn't it? It was a consistent top 10 series from 1982 to 1985, actually peaking at number 7 in the 1983-84 season. That's a serious reach, holding its own against some of the biggest shows on television before its eventual decline. What kind of accolades did it receive during its impressive run?
Its success wasn't just measured in viewership numbers. Falcon Crest also garnered significant accolades and recognition. Jane Wyman herself won a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in 1983, out of 2 nominations for her iconic portrayal of Angela Channing. That really solidified her status as a television legend. Lorenzo Lamas and Gina Lollobrigida also received Golden Globe nominations for their supporting roles, highlighting the strength of the ensemble cast, including those high-profile guest stars.
And beyond the acting.
Beyond the acting, the show also received Emmy nominations for sound mixing and sound editing, which speaks to the high technical quality of the production, especially for a show filmed partially on location like that. and it actually won an Emmy for Outstanding Music Composition in 1989, thanks to Joel Rosenbaum's work. Proving its artistic merit went beyond just the dramatic storylines and the acting. The score was quite memorable.
But its reach extended far beyond American shores, right? What was its international appeal, and how did it resonate with audiences globally?
What's truly fascinating about Falcon Crest's legacy is its substantial international appeal. That's something people might forget. The show was particularly beloved in Spain, for instance. It won multiple Tubioro Awards there for Best Foreign Series, taking home the prize in 1985, 1986, and 1989, and securing second place in 1987. This global success really highlights the universal appeal of its core themes: family, power, ambition, the relentless pursuit of a dynasty. These themes transcend national borders and cultural nuances. It proved that the language of melodrama, particularly when set against a backdrop of wealth and natural beauty like the wine country, speaks to a wide audience worldwide.
It's incredible how these stories resonated across different cultures, and its enduring influence is still felt today, even if a direct revival hasn't quite materialized. The series is available on DVD, right? Warner Bros. Released the first 3 seasons in Region 1. I think the 4th season is available digitally on iTunes, so fans can still dive back into the drama whenever they want.
Exactly. And there were plans for a revival, which is a common trend with popular 80s shows seeking to capitalize on that nostalgia wave. After Dallas was successfully relaunched in 2012, reports emerged that original Falcon Crest stars had been approached about a new series. The proposed focus was apparently on Cole Giuberti and Richard Channing, suggesting a continuation of those key family lines and rivalries.
But it didn't happen.
No, those plans, unfortunately, never came to fruition. It's a shame for the fans, perhaps. Despite that, the show's influence continues, even in other forms. In 2018, for instance, a Turkish remake titled Şahin Tepesi was produced. And interestingly, Şahin Tepesi actually shares the same name the original Falcon Crest used when it aired in Turkey back in the 1980s. Just goes to show you how enduring these powerful family sagas are. They transcend time and national borders, capable of being retold and reinterpreted for new generations.
It's true. Good drama is timeless. We've uncorked the rich fictional history of Falcon Crest, a story of ambition and betrayal rooted in the California wine industry. But in a twist almost too perfect for a primetime soap opera, the real-life vineyard that served as its stunning backdrop, Spring Mountain Vineyard, would embark on its own tumultuous saga, one that mirrors the very drama it helped create. What happened to Spring Mountain Vineyard after the camera stopped rolling?
Indeed. It's quite uncanny, isn't it? After Falcon Crest ended its run, the vineyard faced its own turbulent history, almost as if it had absorbed the drama from the show itself. Mike Robbins, who had produced those Falcon Crest label wines during the show's original run, unfortunately declared bankruptcy in the early 1990s. This marked a significant downturn for the property, showing that even real-life empires, especially in the tough wine business, can crumble.
Then a new player entered the scene, the notoriously secretive Swiss billionaire Jacques Safra. He's known as the chairman of Encyclopedia Britannica and is a member of the powerful Safra banking family, Big Money. In a move that consolidated much of the Spring Mountain district, he acquired Spring Mountain Vineyard along with 3 neighboring parcels, La Perla, Chateau Chevalier, and El Bastreblois. He finally united them into one massive 845-acre estate. To give you some perspective, that's roughly the size of New York's Central Park. Huge. Safra did make efforts for a revival of the vineyard under his reign, hinting at a brighter future. It sounds like a real-life corporate takeover plot, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and it underscores a powerful insight. The very elements that define grandeur, vast land, valuable assets, generational legacy, also make them incredibly vulnerable, both in fiction and reality. Safra's consolidation seemed to stabilize things for a while, but then external forces, much like the unexpected tragedies that often befell the Channing and Giuberti families on the show, intervened. The most recent and arguably most devastating chapter in the vineyard's real-life drama unfolded with the 2020 glass fire.
That fire was terrible for Napa.
Devastating. It was a near catastrophe for Spring Mountain Vineyard. First responders thankfully managed to stop the blaze mere feet from the winery building and its precious caves, saving the core infrastructure. But despite that heroic effort, most of the sprawling 845-acre mountain estate was engulfed in flames.
The scale of that destruction is truly heartbreaking. 19 structures, including the historic 1870s La Perla winery, were completely destroyed. Over 100 acres of vines were severely damaged, and as you mentioned, their direct neighbor, Newton Vineyard, burned down completely and actually announced its permanent closure in February. Just gone. The fire caused over $35 million in damages to Spring Mountain Vineyard alone, according to court filings. How did this devastating event impact the vineyard's ownership and future?
Well, this financial devastation quickly escalated into two major legal battles for Safra, mirroring the courtroom drama so often seen on screen in Falcon Crest. In 2022, he sued one of his insurance carriers for refusing to pay a $10 million wildfire claim. The insurer countersued, claiming no obligation to pay. A real mess. Simultaneously, Spring Mountain had defaulted on a staggering $185 million loan from MGG Investment Group. That's a huge amount of debt. Safra even sued the lender to try and prevent them from taking control of the winery.
So it went to bankruptcy.
Ultimately, yes, a forbearance agreement was put in place, dictating that if Safra couldn't sell the winery and its massive inventory, a nearly 80,000 case cellar dating back to 1979, he would have to sign over the deed to MGG. Unable to sell under those conditions, Safra filed for bankruptcy in the fall of 2022. It was a complete financial unraveling, much like a season finale where the antagonist loses everything.
It's like a real-life, primetime soap opera unfolding right there in Napa Valley. The drama never ends. But now it seems like a new chapter is beginning, maybe a phoenix rising from the ashes, thanks to MGG Investment Group. This New York City hedge fund acquired the property for a $42 million credit bid through a 2023 bankruptcy auction. Can you explain what a credit bid entails in this context and what this acquisition means for the vineyard's future?
Absolutely. When MGG Investment Group acquired the property for that $42 million credit bid, it essentially meant the lender, MGG, used the outstanding debt owed to them as their bid, rather than paying new cash, to take ownership. This effectively offset a portion of that massive $185 million loan that Spring Mountain had defaulted on. Interestingly, the CEO, Peter Ekman, admitted that MGG probably paid twice what it was worth, just based on asset value, due to the outstanding debt they were owed, which speaks to the complexity of these distressed asset acquisitions. This acquisition is MGG's first venture into the winery business, a significant move for them. It demonstrates a clear strategic intent to rebuild and revitalize, not just liquidate.
This shift in ownership is, understandably, controversial in Napa Valley, a region steeped in tradition. The increasing presence of outside owners, whether foreign corporations or investment groups, is often viewed with skepticism by locals. What are the concerns among the local wine industry regarding these types of acquisitions?
It's a classic tension between heritage and modern business, isn't it? The region has this deeply ingrained tradition of family-owned wineries passed down through generations, and many in the wine industry fear these acquisitions could ultimately degrade wine quality or tarnish the legacy of historic estates like Spring Mountain. There's a concern that it leads to flashy, multi-million-dollar rebrands and big price jumps that alienate longtime customers, that it prioritizes profit over tradition and craft. The fear is that the unique character of Napa Valley, built on generations of family commitment, could be diluted by a more corporate, financially driven approach.
But MGG seems to have big plans.
They do. MGG has an incredibly ambitious vision for Spring Mountain. A $100 million revitalization plan, estimated to finish by 2028. That's a huge investment. Paul Goldberg from Bettinelli Vineyard Development and Management, who's leading the vineyard redevelopment, has a grand goal. He wants it to look like a national park when it's all done. That's a testament to the scale of what they're trying to achieve, suggesting a long-term commitment to the land, not just the brand.
A national park vision for a vineyard that's truly ambitious. What does the property actually look like today amidst this massive rebuilding effort? Can you paint a vivid picture for us?
It's a landscape of profound transformation and resilience. You really see both sides. Today, the property is this striking patchwork of ruins from the fire, stark burned trees standing right alongside vibrant, fresh new growth. You see stacks of ripped-out dead vines next to newly planted vineyard blocks. There's a near-constant whir of chainsaws as a dedicated 20-person crew works tirelessly to remove dead trees, clearing the way for new life. You'll find a dozen construction vehicles, including a massive 250,000-pound bulldozer tackling landslides caused by the fire and rain, literally reshaping the terrain. There are even fresh piles of milled redwood, recycled from 200-year-old trees that burned, awaiting construction permits. It symbolizes a commitment to sustainability even in the face of destruction.
But amidst all that construction, there are hopeful signs of life too. It sounds like nature is playing a role in this renewal.
Absolutely. It's not just human effort. The forested property is once again teeming with wildlife, which is a testament to nature's resilience. And in an amazing natural approach to fire mitigation, they've brought in 4,000 goats and sheep to assist with clearing brush and reducing fuel for future fires. They're like a natural grounds crew. Paul Goldberg said that early in the morning it feels like we're at a zoo, which just gives you this wonderful image of nature reclaiming and assisting in the renewal, creating a truly unique environment out there.
The heart of MGG's revitalization plan is a comprehensive vineyard replant totaling about 220 acres over 3 years. What does this modernizing and future-proofing entail for the grapes themselves? It sounds like it goes way beyond just putting new vines in the ground.
It's an incredibly complex undertaking, moving far beyond simple replanting. This is really cutting-edge viticulture. They started by what they called Swiss cheesing the property, essentially, using excavators to dig hundreds of pits, not just randomly, but to thoroughly map out the soil composition on a granular level before replanting. They want to understand every inch of their terroir. The goal isn't merely replanting, it's about modernizing and future-proofing the vineyard for climate change, addressing environmental protection aspects that weren't looked at as important or maybe even understood a century ago.
So what does that mean practically?
Practically, it means they plan to plant over 150 individual vineyard blocks. Each block will have customized rootstocks, the disease-resistant base of the vine-specific clones, which are genetic variations of grape varieties suited to that spot. Customized vine trellising, which is how the vines are supported for optimal growth and sun exposure, and specific row orientations, the direction they're planted for optimal sun. This tailored, meticulous approach is all about ensuring the best possible future for these grapes, given the changing climate and the specific microclimates on the mountain.
That's a remarkable long-term strategy, adapting to a changing world. So when can we expect to taste the results of this ambitious vision, the new spring mountain wines?
Well, patience is key here. While the first new vines were planted in May 2025 on the Miraval Ranch and Chateau Chevalier sections, new wines from the estate's new plantings won't actually launch before 2030. It takes time for vines to mature. They will be purchasing some interim fruit from other growers to maintain some production in the meantime, keep the brand alive. When those new wines do arrive, though, they are expected to look and taste different from the past.
New winemakers involved, too.
Yes, Spring Mountain has brought in Napa Valley's highly sought-after wine consulting duo, Philippe Melka and Mein Koshitsky, to work alongside longtime winemaker Barrett Anderson. That's a serious team. The aim is to largely maintain Spring Mountain's classic, minimal intervention winemaking style, but the new wines will undoubtedly be more expensive. They're aiming for the high end. And they'll feature new labels showcasing the Falcon Crest Mansion's distinctive cupola leading into that history. CEO Peter Ekman has set an ambitious target to produce a 100-point wine. For those unfamiliar, that's the pinnacle of critical acclaim in the wine world, signifying a wine of exceptional quality and character, aiming high.
A 100-point wine, that's quite the statement of intent. And in another big change, production will be a fraction of what it once was. Only 2,000 to 3,000 cases a year, down from upwards of 10,000 in the past. Why such a drastic reduction?
This reduction in production is a fascinating strategic decision. Instead of focusing on volume, they're clearly prioritizing quality and exclusivity, making less, but making it better and more expensive. Interestingly, 90% of the fruit from the estate will now be sold to other wineries, rather than being used for Spring Mountain's own wines. That's the really big shift. This decision, CEO Ekman believes, could help boost the reputation of the Spring Mountain district as a whole, which he feels is underrated compared to other Napa subregions. He's asserting that these are some of the best grapes in Napa Valley, and by selling them to other high-profile winemakers, he aims to elevate the entire district's prestige. It's a move that prioritizes the district's reputation over their own brand's sheer output. A very different approach from the volume-driven strategies of the past, and maybe a gamble.
It certainly is. So we've delved into the twists and turns of Falcon Crest, both the fictional drama that captivated millions and the equally compelling, very real saga of the vineyard that embodied its spirit. The real vineyard's ongoing story, its devastating fire, its legal battles, and its ambitious rebirth truly adds another layer to the Falcon Crest legacy. The land itself, the source of so much fictional drama, has its own equally compelling and very real narrative.
It's a fascinating parallel, isn't it, between the fictional and real Falcon Crest properties. It reveals a powerful insight. The very elements that define grandeur, vast land, valuable assets, generational legacy also make them incredibly vulnerable. Whether it's the machinations of a fictional Angela Channing or the devastating reality of climate change in financial markets, the story of Falcon Crest, both on screen and off, is a profound testament to the unpredictable forces that can shatter even the most iron-fisted control.
That really makes you think.
It does. And it raises an important question. What is it about these grand family sagas, whether on screen or in real life, that continues to captivate us so much? Is it the pursuit of power, the struggle for legacy, or simply the dramatic, often unpredictable twists of fate that we find so compelling? We see in Falcon Crest, both the show and the vineyard, this profound reflection of American ambition, resilience, and that relentless desire to leave an indelible mark on the land and on a dynasty.
That's a powerful thought, the constant human desire for control over land and legacy, and the unpredictable forces that challenge it. As Angela Channing herself said in that final scene, raising her glass, "A toast to you, Falcon Crest, and long may you live." It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other classic stories are unfolding right now, in real life, right under our very noses, just waiting for their own deep dive? If you enjoyed this deep dive, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more explorations into classic stories and unexpected connections, and leave a comment below. What was your favorite Falcon Crest moment, or what other classic show would you love us to unpack next? Your support helps us keep these classic narratives alive and well. Thanks for tuning in.